Welcome to I Love That For You, the podcast where we attempt to crack wise while cracking open the mind. Each week, my therapist and training husband and I, a writer and producer, answer your listener emails on a wide range of topics, all the while laughing it out, talking it through. We love that for you. Welcome back to I Love That For You. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Sean.
Happy summer, all. Yesterday was Memorial Day. Not that Sean would know. He was working. Mental health never ends.
Does not.
I'm sorry. But happy summer to all of you. Unofficial start of summer. So in that spirit, peak and pitch, sure, but let's do rose and thorn of the week.
Is that the same as the thing we did last week?
It is, but now it's summery because of roses for some reason, even though it has no correlation to summer whatsoever.
So is the conceit you're just going to change the name
every week? Because I already know you're
everybody?
a poop emoji. I'm not doing an emoji check. I already
Okay.
know that's your emoji. I'm the upside down emoji. We're not doing that. So we're going to do the rose and thorn of the week.
Let's start with you.
Okay, my rose was the Renaissance Fair. That was really fun and dusty and expensive and weird and awesome. And I wish I could have been there. It was really fun. I went on the last day, got a discounted ticket, got to hang out by the fencer booth, get our drink on a little bit. That was a lot of fun. I feel bad for the horses, though. Every single time I see them at the Lansing or the jousting thing, I feel really bad for them.
Aren't you a Lansing?
I feel bad because they're like dressed up and I'm wondering if they're hot, and so I get really uncomfortable and then I left, but I wasn't there an hour early, so I couldn't even get into the stadium anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Well, that's sort of entertainment is a bit of animal cruelty, so
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to
Now that's
compartmentalize that or just accept it or leave. Like
now that's my thorn. Thanks. My thorn of the week was still gotta be my knee. My knee is really just like freaking me out because I really need this to rehab before I start training. But yeah, this knee is really just kind of a huge thorn in my side, if you will. Those are mine. What are yours?
I gotta be honest, I really don't know what I do week to week, and I have fun times with friends, and I have low times.
Because their day-to-day is just chaotic.
Day-to-day is chaotic. I have done great things. I did a photo shoot with my band over the weekend, went to a really fun running event with some friends, and the run club that you and I have, the Los Angeles Cinephile Run Club, we did a Fast and Furious run. And
I couldn't make because I was working a wedding. But yes, I'm sure it was lovely.
It was a lot of fun. Usually is.
It is. It's always
so
fun.
I guess those are roses.
Those are definitely roses. And thorns might be tying to our theme this week. Routines and vices. Sometimes they're one and the same. In your perfect world, what's your ideal routine? And then tell me what your actual reality is. In the too long didn't read Reddit version.
I don't know if I can do an elevator pitch on sort of what my day-to-day routine is or what my perfect day-to-day routine is. Let's just say getting up at 6 a.m. most days, running if I have the time, but usually working one of a handful of part-time jobs, then prepping food for the rest of the day, showering, doing homework, and then going to my full-time job, which is from noon to 8. Drive home, eat, maybe get a half hour to watch TV every couple days. Sometimes there's a band practice, sometimes there's a run group, sometimes there's just an obligation. It's just every day's a lot, and I've said this to many lately that I feel like a hamster on a wheel. But that's the life that I've chosen, and there are things that have to get done to get to the point where I need to get, i.e. graduating school.
And so as you go through your routines, are there any vices of yours that you find yourself coming across? Caffeine, alcohol, doom scrolling, all the above. Like what are the daily vices that you're coming across in your routine?
I think I have a bigger answer to that question, in that the incessant busyness, this need to constantly move and perform, as it were, even though there's a practical component, like I need to make a living, I do thrive on constant movement, kind of like a shark.
I
might die if I stop.
That's true.
I've
seen it.
I do get sick when I stop, but I'm actually very aware of this lately, and I really, I guess to answer your question, in a perfect world, I would rest more. Unfortunately, I'm in a position where I can't rest as much as I would like to. So that perfect world would be maybe cutting a couple of the things in my life that maybe aren't serving me as much, or something I can take a break from. I've noticed I've been doing it. I've been running less the last couple months, which kind of sucks, but I know that, something has to give at some point. So,
but a routine and a vice could be one and the same, right? Can something be both? Like what makes a routine and what makes a vice?
I'm looking at, there's some recovery literature, and they talk about the definitions of vice. And one of them I liked, it's the vice is a weakness of character or behavior a bad habit. So vice is a bad habit. A routine isn't necessarily a bad habit. It can be. Vices are also, they're kind of the vessel to addiction. And I think routine is kind of an addiction as well. People can get addicted to routines.
It's a sense of control and predictability, I'd imagine, is what's driving that. It's like that cue, the action, the reward. It's like a habit loop.
Yes, for certain routines. And yes, you can say that, from a routine can lead to an addiction, because once you get stuck in that routine, you're programming yourself to get that, like you said, reward. So yes, there's like this sort of cycle. But I don't know if we're going to dive into addiction much, but yeah, I mean, routines, there's clients I have who kind of thrive on routines, and some people actually cannot even have a routine. Sometimes the routine is just to lie in bed all day and rot and doom scroll. And then there's certain people on the complete opposite side of the spectrum who every half hour of every day they have something to check off on a box. I'm doing this at this time, doing this at this time, and they have to stick with that. And if they don't, they kind of ruminate and get down on themselves, and shame kicks in because they're not doing the things that the list they made.
Yeah, I'd imagine that routines help regulate anxiety, mood, identity, and like I said, the predictability of it, that dopamine, the motivation. So some people really thrive on that, but then sometimes they say, shake up your routine. Like there's a point in that as well. Is having this rigid routine like a good thing necessarily, or is it not that black and white? Yeah.
I think that's the, you could probably cut me saying it's not black and white from the first episode.
And just repeat it. It's not, yeah.
It's not, but every person is different. Every situation is different. And so there's no real answer to that question, but routines can be adaptive and maladaptive all at the same time. It just depends on what that routine is and why you're doing that routine. And that reward that you talk about, what is that reward? Is it for external validation? Is it because like me, the routine has to be the job or the homework or whatever, right? Or are you just killing time because you want to be out of your head?
Right. So I'm asking, do you enjoy this routine, this schedule that you've set for yourself, or do you wish sometimes that you could like shake it up and you're kind of like, it's kind of suffocating you in a bit? It sounds like you're kind of a hamster on a wheel right now with this routine you have. Is there a benefit to shaking it up? Sometimes it can lead to depression, I would imagine, these routines that we find ourselves in. If you're stuck in one for so long, it's Groundhog Day,
Yeah, it feels like Groundhog Day a lot of the times. I guess there is a anecdote recently I had written about on my Substack. Usually when I get home from work, I'm pretty tired and I eat dinner pretty late. We go to bed relatively right away, or at least an hour, or I do my homework, whatever. But instead of the wind down, I decided at 10:30 at night to go for a run in the neighborhood.
I thought it was weird. But
you did. You were very
I was like, huh?
weirded out. But what I got from it was like, it just woke me up. Like I felt like there's sort of doldrums, and it was on a Wednesday, so it was like this getting over the hump thing, and it really kind of reinvigorated me. So I guess to your point, the little change in the routine, something small like that did kind of activate something in me, and I was able to look at my neighborhood at night like in a completely different way. I was completely aware of my surroundings. I was out of the rumination which was happening prior to the run, and I just made that decision to put my shoes on and do it, and it helped get me through the rest of the week. So you don't have to shake up the routine by like impulsively going to South America or something, but there's little things you can do for free that are available to you, if you're willing to just kind of rip the Band-Aid.
You're driving to work, take a different route, as simple as that. Like It's still part of your normal, but like just a different route and different scenery can make all the difference, or a different running route. I feel invigorated after I discover like a new trail or a new route, and it really shakes the dust off my brain, if it will.
Before we go into whatever you're going to go into, you didn't answer the question. So I want to ask you.
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So it's kind of a fun random thing. I'm doing some voiceover work, which I'm actually really enjoying. It's been shaking up my routine. I'm going in at morning hours. I'm going in at night to record. So that's been kind of fun. And then I also, I had to put it on pause, but to shake up my routine, I started doing, I strictly always run, and that's really done me well with my knee. So I joined ClassPass, and I tried all these different classes. I did like aerial yoga. I did ballet, like bar class. I was awful at it, terrible. Spin class, swimming. Like I've been trying all these different classes, and that was really reinvigorating and doesn't really cost all that much just to put some pep in your step. But I do want to ask, for those who maybe like me are either like working multiple jobs and don't have like a place of work to go to, or are just completely unemployed, that sense of not having that routine can also, I would imagine, I don't know if you see that with your clients, but that could probably cause a depression or a spiral from lack of routine as well. What are some things you've seen in your work, or any tips you have for dealing with kind of a lack of regimented schedule or workplace to go to?
What comes to mind for me, both personally, just for you, but also you asked about clients. I think the lockdown completely changed everybody. Prior to that, you were in an office and you haven't been in an office since. So that's
5 years.
So it's
I've been
5
working from home.
5 years
for
working
5
from
years.
home. I too was fortunate enough to be able to work from home most of those 5 years myself. And what happened was the routine changed. And I think for every human being that was in lockdown, they had to change the routine. Some people obviously still had to go into work, first responders, people, hospitals, people, service industry, but that routine completely changed like everybody. And so, there is a sense of a lot of people that like there was a reset, which was nice for some during COVID, but then also going back to the drudgery of being a lemming, I think did a number on people and made them realize like, what am I doing this for? But on top of that, routines are kind of hard to break. And if you're at home for 5 years, I'll ask you this hypothetically. If you got an offer to work in an office now, what would the first thought be in your head? Would it be yes or no? What are the things that would make you
I would
spiral?
probably want a
Taking
hybrid.
the dog out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, that's my first thought. I would probably ask about hybrid because just in general, I feel like it's good to have in-person connections, obviously, walk by somebody's desk, have that interaction you wouldn't have otherwise. But I think we've realized through the pandemic that working in an office 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, just the commute alone, like we can get so much more accomplished and be so much more productive sometimes at home. But I'm not saying we shouldn't be in an office. I'm saying there is validity to just a hybrid schedule being like the most ideal schedule. So if that's 3 days at home, 2 in the office, 4 and 1, whatever it is, whatever my next full-time position is, what I'm looking for.
But again, that might not be the offer. So the question is like,
sure, I'll do it. Great.
But,
I mean, is that the answer you want?
no, I don't want an answer.
Okay.
I just it's
Yes.
more about the thought process.
I'd
It's
have
like
to, yes.
what you're saying is the thought is actually I don't want to do that. Like a hybrid is what I need. So yeah, that changed everything. And I think before COVID, that would not even be an answer. You'd be like, yeah, I got a new job. So it changed that sort of paradigm. And I think I've had clients who are afraid to go back to the office, like deathly afraid, like they got stuck in this routine at home. And I think in a lot of ways, in some literature I read, people have just become turtles, like in their shells. And that routine of being alone, the routine that like we don't have to go to a restaurant anymore. We get Postmates delivered. You can get every meal delivered to you. You can get Amazon delivered to you. You don't have to interact with anyone. So the routine, if you are one, predisposed to be more alone, then yeah, you have that, and that routine will turns off that social muscle and that muscle to be around others. And so that I think is pretty damning and kind of something that 5 years on has really shown that COVID really affected our society.
In terms of tips, I think you can still have a schedule. Go back to my question of not having that place of gathering and feeling lost, like a lot of us maybe who are looking for work, get your exercise in the morning, do your job search from X to X, go see a friend, go for a walk. I think mental health is the most important thing to take care of during those times. So yeah, exercise, movement, music, friends. I'm going to get up by this time. I'm going to put on pants. That's a big thing. Like, I'm guilty of wearing my sweats and grubbies around the house all day, but sometimes it helps when like I'm looking for jobs or whatever. I'm going to wear a nice, outfit to feel like I'm at work and I'm in work mode.
Yeah, and you're not wrong. ADLs, the activities of daily life, those get affected when people are depressed, and so sometimes people can't even put pants on. Sometimes they can't even brush their teeth. And so what you're saying is right. Yes, be physical, see friends, but to some people they're so numb and they're so scared. You have to sort of basically do these really small, achievable tasks. So what does that look like? Instead of ordering Starbucks online, you can go inside and talk to the barista. Little things like that to reintegrate into society. And maybe if that person has a nice interaction, that'll give you a little bit of a dopamine kick. Like, oh, that was a nice interaction. And then you'll feel better. And then maybe you'll want to go and exercise or whatever. But sometimes people are so kind of deep down in it that stuff's just not even an option. So if that is you, just take these teeny tiny steps that could lead you to the things Kelly is saying, which, see friends, get out there, make a schedule. But sometimes, you just need a little bit of a hand-holding.
Right. And then that kind of brings me to my next thing is deep dive into vices. Are they considered comforts or coping? So like things that count as a vice: doom scrolling, gossip, smoking, vaping, over caffeinating, retail therapy, skipping breakfast and calling it fasting. And these vices stick because of, yes, the instant gratification, the emotional regulation, the avoidance of discomfort. So my question is it these things in this case then, for those people who can't put pants on and are engaging in these activities, and we all engage in one or more of these vices, obviously, but is this self-care or are we just trying not to feel things?
The definition of vice I had mentioned earlier is it's a weakness of character or a bad habit. So there's a negative connotation to vices.
This is how it gets dangerous. Like, context and intention can change everything. So, like, a morning run can be great unless it's driven by guilt, which I've been guilty of. You know what I mean? Like, watching reality TV is fine unless it's 12 hours straight and you haven't moved. So it's like this idea of context and intention, and like, is that self-care? Are we trying not to feel things? We need to introduce this idea of soft structure, I think, which is like routines that support without controlling. You know what I mean? I think that's a good way to deal with this.
Yeah, what you mentioned, going for a run because you don't like the way
For
you look
guilt.
because you saw.
I didn't say
Well, I think
because of how I look. I just say I feel guilty because like maybe you're training and then you missed a day and like now my knee is fucked up because I've overused it. But those are how context and intention of this routine vice spectrum can really change everything.
I would flip the word guilt and turn it into shame for you. Guilt is sort of how it affects others. Shame is more inward.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are watching TV and you get this sense of you're not good enough, or whatever you're sort of explaining, whatever that is, that's actually shame. And if you're running because of that, then that's actually an addiction. And so the difference, and it's a little gray between vice and addiction, is vice is like the vessel, and addiction is like the underlying thing that's inside of you. So like
Give me an example.
So
Alcohol's an addiction, right? Not a vice, or is it one and the same?
No. So alcohol is the vice, is like alcohol's the vessel, but you're not drinking because you're drinking because there's some sort of pain you're trying to mask, or there's something that's making you uncomfortable where the drinking makes you feel more comfortable, right? This isn't to say everyone drinks this way. Obviously, it's a social thing, but if you are drinking, and say the vice becomes an addiction, it's just the fact that the alcohol would be the vice and the addiction is sort of what's underlying. You have a bad breakup, you're going to drink. Something bad happens, you're going to want to drink. So you're basically putting kind of a band-aid on that internal wound. So that's where vice and addiction kind of become bedfellows, but not the same. So for you, running would be an addiction because you're trying to
well, it's not
soothe,
body related for me. It used to be, but not anymore. It's just like a matter of I haven't moved. I feel like a lazy person. A lot of people have this exercise addiction, orthorexia, I think it's called.
And that stems from shame, because you just said two things. I'm sitting around all day, I feel bad about myself.
Sure.
And so that's where that addiction part is activated, because there's a pain, you feel shame. And so how do I fix that? I'm going to go for a run. Now, is running a bad thing? No. But if you're doing it because you're masking some pain and then you're doing it too much to where you're hurting yourself, then maybe that could be something to sort of consider and be curious about.
So what are some tips and tricks for breaking this routine vice spectrum? What are some tips and tricks for coping and working through those?
I don't know if it's a tip or trick, but it takes me back to what you said about changing the routine a little bit. What are your loves? Let's say your loves are running.
Dogs.
For you, dogs. So, if there is a
Friends.
routine that has to be met at this exact thing at this exact time, and you're doing those things on this endless sort of loop, maybe the reordering of those things, you're kind of changing that routine, but you're still keeping the things you love there. Like me, I usually run in the morning, and I went for that run at night, and it felt reinvigorating. So that could be a small example of that. So not being so beholden to that schedule and having to do these things at this time, right? And then one quote just to sort of bring around this sort of idea of routine and like being at home, and this, I think this matches. Boredom is not just boring; it can also be terrifying. It forces us to come face to face with bigger questions of meaning and purpose. But boredom is also an opportunity for discovery and invention. It creates the space necessary for a new thought to form, without which we're endlessly reacting to stimuli around us, rather than allowing ourselves to be within our lived experience. So you mentioned, routine is a way to sort of get out of boredom.
And sometimes vices.
And vices, or yeah.
Well, so this one and the same.
So it's basically just saying like, maybe sometimes it's okay to embrace boredom, because the boredom is that open space between these things that you do that might allow you to rest your body, which is something I think I need, but again, it can allow you to be creative too, because you're not thinking about anything else. You're not being stimulated in a world in which we're constantly stimulated. So that would be a tip or trick, is if you're feeling like you're in this hamster wheel routine, like just stop and maybe
call a friend, just pick up the phone.
Well, no,
go outside, touch grass.
Yes. be bored. Like allow boredom to kick in and see what happens. In this world we live in right now, boredom comes so easily because cavemen had to go hunt for food and make fire, and we have all creature comforts always. So like our lives are taken care of for us in a lot of ways. So it does lead to boredom and wanting to do more and more and more. So yeah, embrace boredom. I think that's a tip, trick.
Send the discomfort. And sometimes, if you do want to doom scroll, everything in moderation, right? You guys know it's bad for you, but we're all going to do it. So everything in moderation. If once you restrict, that's when everything goes off the rails. So I think everything in moderation, do that thing. And I'll give you some resources later that I found that can help maybe break habits or set healthier ones. There's apps and stuff. But yeah, those are some great tips. All right. So now let's go into our listener emails. Thank you for writing in. We have 2 great ones today. Okay, so am I the asshole for wanting to disrupt my wife's routine? That's
Okay.
that's the headline. Hey, Kelly and Sean, getting right to it. My wife, 31, and I, 36, have been married for 2 years now. She has a very regimented wellness and mindfulness routine. She wakes up at 5 a.m., does yoga in the spare room, goes on a quick run, and comes home to make a smoothie using one of those loud Nutra Ninja blenders. Just makes me think of White Lotus, which was like half a plot line of the whole season. And we'll get on with her day.
They must live in Los Angeles.
It definitely sounds LA-ish. She also meditates in there, journals, and does other things that I can't disrupt because it's her personal time. She was like this before I met her, and it was clear that if I wasn't on board with this aspect of her routine, she doesn't want to pursue anything with me. While I am not thrilled that she has the whole room for herself, I did ask if I could put my PC in there so it's not in the dining room space. It was there before I moved in with her, so I made my peace with it. My sister is coming into town with her partner and young daughter, 6. We both agreed on letting them stay with us to save money. My wife wants them to sleep in the living room because we have multiple comfortable sofas for them to sleep on. While there is enough room, I made my case for buying air mattresses for them and to set them up in my wife's spare room. I also asked if she would part with her smoothie making at least until they wake up so they aren't disturbed in the morning. My wife is vehemently opposed to giving up her room and smoothies. She doesn't think the room will be comfortable for them. No carpet, it's got huge windows, massive mirrors on one wall, and that I'm using this situation as a way to disrupt her routine I apparently hate. I'm not sure where she got that from since I've never asked her to change it. We're in a disagreement over where they should stay, and my wife is even threatening to not allow them to stay and have them get a hotel for the visit. Am I the asshole for this? I don't think giving up the room is that hard an ask for my family's comfort, and it's only 3 days. Thank you in advance. Woo!
That was a lot.
So, to London and Reed. The sister's coming into town with her partner, daughter, 6. The wife has a very regimented, strict morning routine. Doesn't want to give up any of her personal space. Doesn't want to change any of the routine. Doesn't want to change anything about it to accommodate for his family coming in town. Is he in the wrong for wanting her to change the routine for, a few days?
Yes and no. I mean,
I think this wife sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this rigidity and vehemently being opposed to changing it sounds like it could be stemming from her younger years or childhood. There may have been some trauma, and this is a way of gaining control in a life that may have been chaotic. That's at least for me back in the day. I got into this exercise diet spiral like we all did from the 2000s. If you grew up in the 2000s, it's likely, you may have went on a diet at one point, but that was my way, diet and exercise in a world that was chaotic around me when I was graduating college and know what I was going to do with my life. That was the only thing I could control. And so that was how it got out of control. What I'm saying is it sounds like there's some parallels here that maybe she had a tough upbringing. And that was the link between this routine. It was born out of these circumstances.
I mean, yeah, we can diagnose that however we'd like, but I think you might be right, but I think in the immediate, the idea is that she's not willing to change for his family, and so for him, to really ask her what is it about this space that you need so badly? Let's talk. Talk about it. How can we make this work? By having the conversation, what's really deep down in there. And like you said, maybe there is some trauma and she needs that control. There is rigidity. I mean, it sounds like she doesn't really want the family over there in the first place. So that's another conversation to have. To be accommodating to family and giving them the space is not an asshole thing to do. So I don't think he's an asshole. That's a little extra. But I think there's a conversation that needs to be had with the wife about what that space means to her. And she, instead of saying no, telling him, well, this is why I need space. I don't know. It's not an easy fix beyond a conversation, I
I
think.
think that's where a lot of these answers lie. It's always a conversation, difficult or not. You could also pay partly for a hotel for them if it's really that big of an issue, or sure, they want to stay in and just sleep on the sofas. Sounds like she's happy to let them stay in the sofas. So she's not, a total bitch. She's letting them stay. She just wants her own space, which is valid.
And there is a compromise. Yeah.
There's a good
Okay.
compromise
Look,
there.
you can have your studio. Maybe don't have the smoothies or something.
Yeah.
And so that's where a conversation comes in, where everyone's just open and honest with each other instead of blaming or writing letters to podcasts. But I think there's an easy fix there. Vulnerable conversation.
Yeah. So you're not an asshole listener. Thanks for writing in. I hope it all goes well. Write in. Let us know what happened.
And hey, look, at least her routine is healthy.
At least it's healthy. Exactly. There's one thing. All right. Hope that goes well for your listener. And then our next one, which is a little more general. Stuck in my ways. How do I break the cycle? That's the subject. So that's kind of what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Hey, Kelly and Sean, love the pod. Keep it up. I've always been a creature of habit, which has its perks. I rarely miss a deadline. I get enough sleep. My bills are paid on time. But lately, I've started to wonder if my routines are holding me back. My day is so structured. I barely make room for spontaneity or change. I go to the same places. I eat the same meals. I watch the same shows over and over. On top of that, I've noticed some of my habits have started to feel more like vices. I'm talking about things like doom scrolling for hours or reaching for that glass of wine every night just because it's part of my wind down routine. And none of it feels catastrophic, but it's starting to feel automatic. I feel like I'm living on autopilot. How do I know if these habits are truly harmful, or are they just part of how I cope? And more importantly, how can I start to shift out of these patterns without completely disrupting my life? Thanks in advance for your thoughts. I could really use a reset. Sincerely, routinely stuck. I love how we get these Dear Abby listeners.
All right, so she's got a routine. And
We don't know if it's a she or he. Routinely stuck.
Oh, I thought, okay. I guess I engendered the whole situation. This person has this routine that it seems like it's adaptive stuff, like she's working. I keep saying she.
It's fine. It must be. I'm sure it is.
But she's working. It sounds like she's got a career. Everyone needs to wind down. If she feels like she's doing too much, there's a couple things. Sort of categorize what is the most important, what's serving her, what's part of her value system. Sometimes when we have a routine of doing things at a certain time, it gets to a point where like she said, you're on autopilot. And
like a lot of us can relate,
and I will, as a personal anecdote, I remember, let's say there's a run club meetup. We always use these run club.
I know, they're like, stop with the run club already, guys.
but it's like, oh, Tuesday night, or Thursday night, that's my run club. I can't do anything else. And so then it gets to this point where you tell yourself you can't do anything else at this hour on this day, but that thing will be there next week. And so go do something else instead. Go to the movies, go, stay home, whatever. If you're not feeling it and you're doing it out of sort of this internal obligation because it's part of the routine, then that's when it becomes, I think, not so much a problem, but something where you might want to change the routine a little bit. And also checking her value system. Maybe there's these things are they really that important to do every day or as often as she's doing it,
Yeah.
Because you invariably will feel like a hamster on a wheel. But if you can do something bi-weekly instead of every weekly, then maybe you can fill in that time doing something else, something that aligns with your values more, something that's different kind of a hobby. I don't know. But this quote comes to mind, this random quote from St. Augustine, and it only comes up because I just read it in a book recently, where he says, the life well lived is a constant reordering of our loves. And I think, you can't have wind down wine in the morning, but aside from the necessary timing things like work or whatever, you can reorder those loves. You can try to find ways to make it a little different, but still the same. And that could be a way to change things up and feel new again, even though you're kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah, and I think because I've been thinking about this a lot, I have some tips for kind of redesigning her routine or without the shame or extremes. So listener, anchor to small feel-good cues and ditch this all or nothing mindset. Embrace seasonal routines. So January energy is very different from June energy. And give yourself a vice that doesn't wreck you, because a vice with boundaries is just a vibe, honestly, if you think about it. So no, those are some just tips for her to just rebuild and redesign her routine that she thinks she's on autopilot without the shame or the extremes. Are those good?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around
give herself a vice that doesn't wreck her. Think about run club, for example. Running, exercise. advice with boundaries. Like, I'm not going to run because I feel guilty. I'm just going to run because I want to get 30 minutes of exercise in. It's just a vibe. Hey,
Okay.
I'm trying to give her some concrete, memorable advice. So embrace the seasonal routines. Like, it's summer now. That energy, seasonal, depression is maybe lifting that we all get sometimes. And ditch this all or nothing mindset. You can have some wine, part of your routine, but maybe, you don't have to go cold turkey. It's not all or nothing, but like, maybe instead of, 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week, stuff like that. You know what I mean? And then just anchor to those small feel good cues. Like, oh, you know what? Instead of this glass of wine, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk. Boom.
Yeah, and it's living every day, one day at a time. And that's something I try to do every day, because if you start thinking about the whole picture, a lot of the times it can be super overwhelming. Like, oh my God, 2 weeks has gone by and I'm doing the same thing over and over again. But all you have now is the present, and you change the present and you just do the smallest thing, and you have a series of small changes throughout a series of days, and you realize, oh wow, I've changed that habit, or I've gotten out of this sort of doldrums of this routine because I changed this thing on Tuesday and then it became Wednesday.
21 days, I think. It takes 21 days to form a habit.
Usually 21 days or about a month,
Okay.
depending. But yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
why a lot of
manageable.
rehabs are like 28 days.
It's pretty manageable. I think that's a doable thing. So maybe make that, instead of that wind down, if that's something that's concerning you, do that habit of a 10-minute walk around the block, 15-minute walk around the block.
Or
Call a friend.
There's also, if you're worried about drinking too much, pour a glass of cranberry juice. It looks like wine.
There you go.
Put some ice in it. I mean, there's ways around that. But I understand that uncomfortable feeling of changing the routine. It's just a matter of sitting with that uncomfortable feeling, seeing where it goes, and not caving.
So thank you guys for writing in. Thank you. Routinely stuck. And I don't think the other one left their name.
Am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole guy? Wanted to be anonymous, I guess. Thank you guys for writing in. So now we're going to go into a segment we call We Think You'll Love This. And I actually have a lot of resources for this one, because this is like kind of a tangible thing that has a lot of resources available. So I'm just going to go down a list of a bunch of resources, guys. So, and maybe Sean has some, or maybe I'm just going to give them all. But in terms of books, I'm going to recommend Atomic Habits by James Clear. It focuses on like how to build good habits, break bad ones through, like Sean was saying, these small incremental changes. And James Clear, he offers like this science-backed strategy, and he emphasizes identity-based habit change. So really good book, really good read. Okay, and then Sean has another book I actually had on my list, so you can read that one.
Well, the quote about boredom that I brought up earlier was from this book, Dopamine Nation by Lembke. What a great book. It's such a easy read. It takes a lot of neuroscience and a lot of really dense material and really makes it readable and digestible. There's even cute images of how, our pleasure and pain is on a scale, and it's used like a little seesaw. Anyways, it's a really digestible book, really insightful and very poignant for these times. Even though it's a few years old, like it still works for today.
I'm glad we had that overlap. Okay, a couple more. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I don't think I'm saying that right. Duhigg. This book, focuses on the habit loop, which is that cue, routine, reward, and how to reshape it. So it's like a great insight into basically the neuroscience of habits with real world examples. And the last book is Daily Rituals by Mason Currey. A lot of guys. I mean, we got Anna, thank God, but let's get some more women writing these books. So Daily Rituals is a look into the routines of famous creatives and thinkers, which I love. I think that's so fascinating. I love hearing about the routines of creatives. And it just kind of inspires reflection on your own rituals and showing that there's really no one size fits all. So earlier listeners, hear that? No one size fits all.
I'll do.
Okay, go ahead.
You said you wanted more women, so I'll do a book.
Okay, great.
That I actually found really interesting. I read it about 7 or 8 years ago. It's called Drink: The Intimate Relationship Between Women and Alcohol. I know this isn't like an addiction episode, but I think a lot of these things do apply with routines and advices and stuff. And that's by Anne Dowsett Johnston. So the book is called Drink. Yeah, it's a really interesting book.
Good.
Male or female, but it's definitely from a female lens, obviously.
Now a podcast, which I think he came in and spoke at Disney back in the day over there. So this podcast is called 10% Happier with Dan Harris. And if you don't know Dan Harris, he was the ABC World News anchor who got a panic attack live on air. And from this, he kind of sprang a whole new career. And so 10% Happier focuses on mindfulness and emotional habits, practical advice from psychologists, mediators, teachers. So he kind of found his peacefulness again, back to reset, to homeostasis, because the pressures of the job had just kind of bubbled up in him for so long that he kind of set out on this new path and is now spreading the word of just 10% happier. So it's a great podcast.
It's a very, well, in the book too.
And
the book
yes.
10% Happier is very good.
But we have so many books that I was like,
and I'll do a podcast too. And then, well, you talking about Dan Harris is a segue. He had an interview with Jonathan Bastian on the show Life Examined, which is on KCRW here in LA, but it's also an NPR show. But his episode on that was very good. But in general, that show Life Examined, Jonathan Bastian does talk to a lot of interesting people. Probably a lot of the stuff we talk about on here, he talks about as well. So check that one out.
Love that. And then just to run through these last few, I've got some apps for you guys. So one of them is called Habitica. It turns habit tracking into a role-playing game. It's great if you respond to rewards and accountability. That's not good for everybody. You don't want to gamify everything, but for those who appreciate, like, oh, look at me, I did my 10-minute walk today. That could be good for you, not for everybody, but there's one. Insight Timer, it offers free guided meditations and talks on habits, addiction, and mindfulness. That's Insight Timer. And then speaking of addiction, I threw one in there, I Am Sober, powerful app for tracking sobriety, motivation, journaling, and a supportive community. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff for you guys. So Atomic Habits by James Clear, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, Dopamine Nation
by Anna Lembke,
Daily Rituals by Mason Currey,
Drink, The Intimate Relationship Between Women and Alcohol by Ann Dowsett Johnston.
And then the podcast 10% Happier with Dan Harris.
And Life Examined on NPR.
And then the apps Habitica, Insight Timer, and I Am Sober. We think you'll love those. Lots of resources for you guys to, rewire habits and vices. Hope you enjoy those. And then to end, we're going to do some We Hate This for you.
Oh boy.
So these are some fun ones. You guys never disappoint. And then this one's a little different because it's really about the individual, not like a triggering scenario from others necessarily. So we're going to just rate, I would hate that, or no, it's okay, I'll be okay. So we'll change the scale for this one because it's on the individual level. Does that make sense? So yeah, we hate this, I would hate this, or yeah, I'm okay, I would survive. You can do that. Okay. All right. So
a scale of 2.
Yeah, instead of 1 through 10, because this doesn't really apply. I woke up late, I skipped my usual coffee and journaling time, and then I had to rush straight into work without my normal buffer, and the whole day I felt like trash. Would you hate this? Or would you be like, it's fine?
I mean, personally,
the morning ritual is ruined. Her morning ritual was fucked.
I mean, I've been there. Yeah, it sucks. I guess that's where you sort of use these mindfulness habits or these sort of work through the discomfort. Sometimes that could lead to something good, though.
Okay, so you're fine. You don't hate this.
No, I mean, if I miss my coffee, I'm bummed out. But yeah,
not devastating. You don't hate this. You can survive. Okay, all right. I'm the same, because sometimes I've skipped my coffee and it led to great things and no heart palpitations. So maybe it was a good thing that morning. But I'm sorry you felt like trash. That is, morning routines are important. I get it. The morning ritual of your coffee and your journal. I understand. But I could survive. Okay, I went out just for one drink with a friend after work. 5 drinks later, I was texting people I shouldn't have, and I woke up with a hazy memory and a lot of regret. Oh boy, honey.
You have no self-control.
Hey, don't be mean to our listeners. Do we hate this for them, or you dug your own grave?
No, I mean, if they're having fun with their friends, that's cool. But it sounds like it was a eye-opening experience for this person, so maybe they'll refrain from doing this next time.
So we hate this. We hate this for you, listener. I'm sorry that happened, but it sounds like you had a good night, so it wasn't all for naught. Okay, I'm sure this is a common one, but I'll sit down and check one notification, and the next thing you know is 3 hours later, and I've been mindlessly scrolling reels, feeling drained and disgusted. We've all been
3 hours?
Yeah, I've done that.
Have 3 hours?
Yeah, man.
No,
Sometimes I'll I posted this the other day. It's like I don't have the energy to watch a movie, but then I'll just scroll TikTok for like 2 hours.
I think for me it's spurts of like 5 minutes. Like once I get like 5 minutes, I get like, no, stop, and I have to put it away and then come back to it. So maybe combined throughout the day there might be an hour, but 3 hours is a lot. I hate that for this person.
Are you saying they dug their own grave? It sounds like that's our new scale. You dug your own grave, you didn't have any self-control, or, oh, I'm sorry, that sucks, we hate this for you. It sounds like you're on you dug your own grave, but you have no self-control.
It's a common practice to doom scroll for hours, so no judgment.
Okay, no judgment? Okay.
But the fact that you wrote in, maybe it means you're thinking about changing that habit.
That's exactly it. No, here's another common one. After a tough day, I often find myself ordering my go-to comfort food, even though I'm not really hungry. Maybe I'm just sad or bored or anxious.
It's fine. I mean, if the food gives you comfort, but look at other factors like, is it affecting your bank account? Is it affecting your health, your diet if you're on one? If you worked hard and like you deserve whatever this meal your takeout is, then go for it. But
Okay.
if it's affecting other things, then it's something that you look at.
Yeah. Okay. So we hate this for them?
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay. So no, you dug your own grave. You need more self.
I don't even know the criteria anymore.
I don't either.
What are we talking about?
Okay. I've been consistent for months, but this past week I couldn't bring myself to work out, and now I feel guilty and I'm spiraling that this week off might undo all the work I put in.
That's a shameful rumination. Bodies need breaks, and so
Rest is just as important as I'm learning with my knee.
yeah, look at it as an opportunity to just reset your body. But I know mentally, the routine, the exercise, I think it's less about you missing the exercise and more about missing like a routine. There is some shame built into that. So take it as a win that your body is resting, and then next week when you get back into it, you're gonna go a little harder. Maybe you will run faster, whatever it is exercise you're doing. But a body does need to rest, so take that as a win.
I will rate that one a 10 if I'm going back to the scale, just having been in that situation and feeling that way as well, especially as a runner. If I'm training for like a marathon, that's a 10 for me.
Yeah, and I totally understand that. But when you put in perspective, like, oh, yeah, the body does the rest, beneficial to sort of dealing, that feeling.
This one you relate to. When I'm on vacation or visiting family and there's no set routine, like no schedule or control, I'll start to feel anxious, irritable, and disoriented without my usual structure. That's definitely you.
Mm.
That's you. That's a 10 for you. You always,
It takes
after a few days, you start to kind of, this person, without the routine, you get a little anxious and irritable. So that's a 10 for you. It's more of a 5 for me. Like, I love, for vacation, I like changing it up.
But there is a routine in vacation, especially if you're doing like touristy stuff, sightseeing stuff. You end up making your own routine on vacation. So I think it seems like this person is just afraid to be idle.
Yeah.
And to bring it back to that boredom quote, be idle, be bored, just see what that feels like. Because sometimes I think if we establish a routine, or let's say we're on vacation, which I think the idea of vacation is to rest, when you start building this arbitrary routine just for sake of routine, what are you actually getting out of it? Probably nothing.
Yeah, 10.
I think I've given up on rating these.
Okay.
It's more like talking
through,
to them.
but we need to have a segment. We hate this for you. Okay. I told myself I'd only smoke on the weekends, but now I'm finding myself doing it on a Tuesday again and again, telling myself I deserve it.
Smoking? Like cigarettes?
Yeah. We don't hear about smoking ever. Did you know smoking is bad for you, listener? Shocker. I'm sure you've never heard. I guess the one day too many advice is the issue here.
Yeah, something is stressing you out. So come Tuesday, you need that relief. So are there other ways to relieve yourself? What is it that's stressing you out that leads you to grab that pack of cigarettes? Maybe just explore that. But I hate that for you because smoking's bad. And you're adding more smoke into your lungs. So.
What you could do is my friend who recently quit smoking, sometimes in oral fixation, you can put in a cinnamon stick in those moments that you feel the need to smoke, and it actually really helps my friend. So that's something, if it's an oral fixation thing, I totally get it. I'm with my liquids. I have like 4 at any given time. Try a cinnamon stick. I'm sure you've tried it all. I'm sure this is unsolicited advice, but I'm just saying, if it's about the habit of I'm bored, I'm at a bar, I need to go outside. It might look weird, but like people will be like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. They don't care about you as much as you think. So maybe try putting this cinnamon stick in your mouth. And hey, the worst of it is you get a nice taste of cinnamon.
Yeah, gum, cinnamon, candy, cigarette, whatever. Exactly. It's an oral fixation.
Yeah. Last one. I recently lost my job and now I have no routine and all I want is stability. Aww. That's sad. I'm sorry, listener. It's very common. You're not alone. Listen to my earlier part of the podcast, giving you tips for that. That's a 10, obviously, when you have your routine taken away outside of your circumstances. I can see how traumatic that would be.
Also, there's always space, and it's easier said than done. There's always space to reframe. Door closes, another one opens. Whatever analogy you want to use. And so maybe you losing this job is an opportunity to put on a new hat, try something new. Maybe there's something you didn't get to do because you worked that now you have the opportunity to do. So
that's how this podcast came to be.
As much right, and as much as this
and lots of other things I'm doing, like VO and Substacks and all this other random stuff and wedding events. Like, yeah, it's a good thing when you reframe it that way. But in the immediate, I can see how traumatic that is to have your routine and day to day just completely upended like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a loss, and any loss is not good for your psyche. But yeah, if there's a way to reframe it instead of sitting in the quicksand of shame and guilt, look at it as an opportunity to try something new and see what else you're made of.
Yeah. But yes, I validate you. That's a 10. I hate that for you. I'm so sorry, but you'll come out at the end of this much better. Maybe you'll have a hit podcast. So thank you guys for writing in.
Speaking of hit podcasts, is this the 100th episode
Oh my
of the show?
He remembered. It should be. We'll see when it hits the feed, but it should be 100 episodes today.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's quite a feat. I hear that most don't last past like 4 or 8 episodes. So 100 episodes. Crazy.
It's like, yeah, it's 2 years.
Yeah. It's been a big part of my routine, and here we are, almost 2 years later. I never thought in a million years I would get to 100. So yeah, guys, send me a big congratulations. I've earned it.
Congrats to you and Red.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I guess most of that was Red. So Red, congrats, we did it. But yeah, so guys, wrapping up here, just to recap routines. They aren't just about discipline. They're about, that safety, that self-worth, that emotional regulation, and vices are not always evil. They're data. So I invite you listeners to rethink your habits with compassion.
That's your opinion. Vice is a bad habit.
They're data points.
Sure.
That's my...
Potato.
Okay. Well, what would you like to say to end for reflections?
No, what you said was fine. Vices, by definition, are...
Bad habits.
Bad habits, yeah.
Okay. Those bad habits can be data points. And then you can use that to reframe and redirect.
Sure.
Okay.
And whatever that vice is, and yes, we all have one, doesn't mean we shouldn't have one, or doesn't mean you're a bad person if you have one. But what's your relationship to that vice? I think that's the biggest thing.
It all depends on context.
It depends on context, and again, your relationship. Like, why are you drinking? Is it because it's just like Saturday and you're hanging out with friends, or is it like you are just sad at the end of the day, and the only way to tune out is to have a drink? So yeah, I mean, what is the relationship with vice?
Yeah.
Do you like to have sex all the time, or you just like have a need to be intimate? Like there are things that are just depends on the relationship to vice.
Great. So, and then you can also refer to those many, many resources we gave you, listeners, if all else fails. So yeah, we laughed it out. We talked it through. We love that for you. Follow us at I Love That For You Pod. We're on youtube.com/@ILoveThatForYouPod. That's it. We did it.
Yeah.
100 episodes.
That's right.
Woo!
So let's see where this routine takes you.
Love it. All right, guys. Thanks. See you next week. Bye. I Love That For You is produced by Kelly and Sean. Our theme song is by Vaudeville and used with permission. Editing by Kelly. Social media help by Red. Email us your questions, comments, write-ins, and triggers to ilovethatforyoupod@gmail.com. Follow us at I Love That For You Pod on Instagram and on Facebook.